Assalamu alaikum, Zainab.
Walaikum assalam. How are you?
Good, good. How are you doing? How's
Good.
everything?
Everything is good, thank you. Just navigating this new lifestyle, this new I don't want to call it normal, but this new yeah, I don't want this to be normal, but yeah, just the way the new things are for the time being.
Yes, yes. I am so excited. We've been planning and talking about getting this podcast or and it's been a while. Everybody's been a little bit busy with back to school. So I'm so excited that we finally got a chance to, I mean, we talk, but finally get a chance to talk on record.
Yes, yes, for sure. So we have to behave, Sarah, because
Yes,
we're on record now.
we have to behave. Okay. So yeah, I mean, yes, life has changed um, a lot.
A lot.
Some things for the better, I find.
Yes.
Some things not.
Hmm.
Um, and so, obviously, adjusting to the new norms and, well, as you said, not the norms, but yeah, kind of adjusting to the new style of life, which I think is going to go on for a little while. I don't see it going away, right?
No,
For
I
a
don't
little
see it
while.
either. I think it's here for at least into 2021, the end of 2021. And then hopefully, once they have a vaccine and they have some solutions, we might be able to maybe ease off on a few of the restrictions. But I think they're here to stay for a bit.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, it's like, as I said, it's impacted many different areas of our life, right? Whether it's schooling or work or home life or our social life, even our religious life. Everything's has had an impact. But we try to do what's best and support each other as best as we can, right? So um, I
I
guess
think it's key what you said in the beginning that there's been good and bad. So I think from a family point of view, it's been nice because families I find have gotten time to actually connect. And
hmm
when I say family, I mean just like your immediate, your nuclear family that because, otherwise in your daily routine, you're always on the run, you have activities, work, homework, kids, this, that. It's been nice just to slow down and to
yeah.
embrace
hmm
and take in the moments and to reflect. And even spirituality I find has really, like, it helps, faith helps us during these times
Of
because
course.
it gives us so much hope, and just to reflect on things that maybe we had neglected before, that sort of taking your time and taking a walk in nature, or savoring some verses of the Quran that you recited, actually letting them sit and thinking about them.
hmm
So yeah, I mean, it wasn't fun initially when everything shut down and everyone went into quarantine, but it also had its blessings in the sense that everyone connected with each other, and you realized all the little blessings you have that we take for granted.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is there's a lot of things that are there, but we don't see them, and I think that there's been a little bit of clarity, and I find like the noise has gone down, which has helped hear things that we were not hearing or see things that we were not seeing. So Alhamdulillah, for many it is a hard time,
Yes.
and for many it is better. So Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. So I see books. I don't see Zena, but I see books, and
But
I
yeah.
know that. I mean, so you've been on this journey and of reading and reviewing books and just promoting the whole idea of connecting with books. So how did you come about that?
So reading is something that I've always been a big reader, and my maternal grandfather was a really he was huge on reading. So I used to spend my summers with him in Pakistan. And I remember even when I was very young, he would always talk to me like an equal, and he would always introduce books to me. So at a very young age, I had read, Stalin's thoughts. Mao's China, like what was his whole thing about how he wanted China to be Hitler's biography. And he was very big on not only reading, but he was very big on opening your mind to different books. So read classics, read Oliver Twist, Little Women, but also read about Stalin. So read Chinese folk tales, but also read Jane Austen. And then I think about 2 years ago, I had posted a couple of reviews on my personal page, and my cousin reached out to me and she said, why don't you make a public page? She's like, there's so many good books out there, so many good reads, and you have always so much to share on the WhatsApp group, like our family WhatsApp group. She's like, why don't you just share this with everybody else? And that's how it started. And to be very honest, I'm not a serious blogger in the sense, like I post and I'm not, for me, it's just, even if one person picks up a book I recommended, I feel like that's a win. Because it's something in the middle, I mean, now I think in quarantine it's gone back up, but I found in the middle reading had become something that people were losing out on. Like they just didn't have the time. They were losing the habit of reading. And there's so much value in it, from building your vocabulary, your grammar, opening your mind, looking at people from different perspectives, learning about how different people's minds work. Because every book has a story to tell and every author comes at it from their point of view. So even if you don't agree with them, you still learn and see where they're coming from. And I think that's so important because it helps you build that skill in life when you deal with people. And you learn from that. So that's kind of how the journey started. And that's, where we are at now. So, yeah.
I used to be a reader when I was young. Well, when I was a girl, like it feels like eons ago. But anyway, I used to read. Back then I used to read, I remember. And then somehow I slipped into nonfiction. And I love reading nonfiction, like just reading and so I kind of moved away from fiction. And I think that you posted about this book. And
sorry, I couldn't see it.
40 Rules of Love.
Yes, 40 Rules of Love.
And I said to myself, okay, I need to, like, I had heard so much about it. And then I was like, okay, let me give it a try. So I hadn't read fiction in almost, I would say, 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was just not, I had just gone off fiction completely. I always am drawn towards nonfiction. So I picked up this book and I could not put it down. Like it was and I was like, wow, that felt good. Right. And I was like staying up late and reading. And so it felt really good. Mind you, I haven't read another fiction since then. Again, I just keep getting pulled towards nonfiction. But growing up, I think in Pakistan, there was a couple of libraries, but I'll be honest with you, never kind of explored them as much until I had come here. And this was like at the beginning, earlier days when I had moved here, there was a library right in front of our condo building. And I would just go and sit there. And I realized that a library was my happy place. And so even when all our kids were younger, that was our go-to place. I would take all the kids, go to our public library, and I would park myself in one spot, and I would tell the kids, this is where I'm going to be, and I'm not going to leave the door of this library without you guys. So go and explore. And so every few minutes they would, pick up books and come and sit with me or show me, and we would spend hours at the library. Like I'm telling you, that was like my babysitter. Like if
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And we did that a lot. We did that, I would say, at the very least once a week, if not twice a week, because it was just it was the best place. It would give me so much peace. I think I find peace in a library or a book.
Yeah, and it's a quiet place, and you can, be reflective there, and you can sit and take it in. And like I said, books are treasures. They have so much to offer, whether they're fiction, nonfiction. You learn so much from them. And I mean, the best part of living in North America is the libraries, for sure, because You can, you know, borrow as many books as you want. They have the best and the latest collection. And you don't have to, you know, if you're not one who wants to spend on books, because I know a lot of people feel like, well, if I'm only going to read it once, what's the point in investing in it? Fair enough. So, you know, you can always just go borrow a book. And
I'm guilty. I'm guilty of buying a lot of
are
books.
you?
I I think that for me that was the thing. That was my big, like, my splurge. So even,
Yeah.
you know, when you go to grocery stores and they would have these bins with like the books, and I would be drawn towards it. And so I wouldn't say every grocery trip, but most of the grocery trips I would be coming back with. And I think for me, it was either self-help or it was cooking. So I have so many cookbooks until I realized, okay, I don't have, so even the kids, right? So that was their treat. Okay, we're going to go to the bookstore, buy books. And they loved it. Until then, finally, I said, okay, no more buying books because we have no place to keep them, right? And it's just better you go to the library, you buy, you borrow the book, read it, and you can return it.
And then you can return it. Yeah. And then if
It's
there's
just,
really a book you fall in love with, then, you know, go ahead and buy that book.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly. So some are keepers. Like
the
I
40 Rules of Love is definitely a keeper. That's a beautiful, beautiful book.
that is my keeper. And there's another one I have to show you. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but where did it go? This one. This is one of them. So, as I said, I was drawn towards, and remember, I don't know if you can see it, but it's called How to Behave So Your Children Will Too.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Oh my God. So there is this, and then there's a few, and I'll do, I can always share my stack of parenting books that I use. And I kid you not, I use them starting from Iman, and they're
All the way
timeless.
to,
And right
yeah.
down to now to Sakina too. There are so many things that I learned from these books, and I will definitely share the books that I used for parenting, and then, you know, other self-help books as well. But yeah, I have some that I've had for like now 20 years, and
Yeah.
I don't want
And
to.
it's funny because if you look at their message, like you said, you've had them for 20 years. So they still hold that message still, you know, holds true. Like you can still relate to it. You can still use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like I have two nonfictions here, and I know you've probably read both of them, A New Earth and The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
So I have
And
not heard The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I have, sorry, I haven't read it.
really,
But The New Earth, yes.
yes. So I think you would enjoy The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari as well. I think you would really enjoy it. It's a really good book. And it's you know, it's so in line with our spiritual teachings of about not burdening ourselves with materialistic things and
Mm-hmm.
just letting go and sort of because we get so heavy with all these things we feel we need to have,
Yeah.
and we don't need to have them, but we feel we do. And so it's a really nice read to see how this person's journey went.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you know,
Hmm.
yeah, books, man. Love books.
I know. So, tell me about what are your views, like, you know, a quick thing about parenting in today's world. Like, what is the few things that you hold on to, or you instill in your kids all the time?
So I think for us as a family, it was very important to raise children who were God centric, and everything else kind of falls into place around that. Um, I'm huge on being a respectful parenting in the sense that, you know, yes, they obviously have to respect us, but we also have to respect that they're their own person. And it wasn't always like that, I'll be honest. It's evolved over time. You know, you make mistakes, you learn. And that's part and parcel of parenting, that you fall, you get up, you learn. And you have to be okay with them because you sort of have this ideal in mind and you feel like, oh, this is how my kid needs to be, this is what their life should be. And then when they sort of, you know, detour and they take something else and you're like, oh my God, why would you do that? But that was your thought, that's how you wanted it to be. That's not them. They have their own temperament. They have their own personality.
Mm-hmm.
So you pick your battles. And when my kids were very young, I remember I hated, like, I still don't like Crocs. I would be like, why do you want to spend money on these plastic shoes that are like, and I remember my husband said to me, he goes, you really need to pick your battles. Like, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
If they want to buy them and wear them, let them buy them and wear them. And he was right. But I think for me, parenting is honestly, it is a blessing. It is a huge responsibility for sure. And there's so much joy in it and there's so much to learn. And we can be hard on ourselves because we make mistakes. And that's okay. I think that's how we learn, when we make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, alhamdulillah, I have 4 kids and each one of them is very similar yet different. And it's interesting to see how, sometimes they'll say something and I'm like, oh my God, you all sound so similar to each other, yet they all have different likes, dislikes. They all, enjoy different things. They react to different situations differently. 2 are very introverted, 2 are extremely extroverted. So it's a fun day every day. It's like, yeah.
It's like a surprise package, right? You don't know what you're gonna get,
Yep.
right?
Totally.
So, yeah, I think that's what we have in our house too. I think I always tell my kids this, that you have to be a good human being first,
Mhm.
and when you are a good human being, that's when you qualify to become, or you have that check mark to become a Muslim. And
Yes.
only then you can be a good Muslim, right? So the humanity part for me comes first, is being more mindful of your surroundings, or being more mindful of the people around you,
Yes.
and just being fair. I think that that's so important, just always asking yourself.
And Sarah, being kind. I find
Yeah,
kindness has become so, like, people are so unkind sometimes nowadays,
they're
just
ruthless.
being kind. Yeah. If you don't understand something about someone, or if someone says something to you, you know, and that's what I was telling you before we started this today. I loved your write up today because it is so important. No, I really did. I loved your last line because, I think if we all make that rule part of our life, it will make it so easy to navigate this journey of, like, living. And because we just need to be kind and walk away and not react. We tend to be so reactive in situations, and it's happened to all of us. It's
Yeah.
not like something that, I mean, I know it has happened to me where I have reacted in a situation and then I've actually regretted it, and I've thought to myself, I wish I had not done that. And I wish I had not reacted a certain way. And that's what I tell my children. I'm telling you this, be kind or walk, because I know that you will regret it later on. Like, I can tell you from experience that it's not something you want to be in. So yes, I think you're absolutely right. Being a good human is key.
Yeah, and I think if we just instill those little things of being kind, of being more mindful, I think that if we can, and not that our parents didn't instill that in us, but I think that times have changed. Like, I think before, um, there was a lot of lihaz, right?
Yes.
And I think that in today's free speech world, which it needs to be, but I find that in today's, that whole movement about free speech, and I want to say how I feel, or how I think, is eliminating the lihaz component
Yes.
of our
Yes.
interaction. And I think what that does is it just kind of makes things very crude and very
Yes.
grasp. And I, like I say to my kids all the time, and I tell myself this all the time as well, I say, how can I do it better? How can I say it better? Right? So, and that's the key. And if you've already gone and had an interaction with somebody which was not to your liking,
Yes.
and as a result to that person's liking or Allah's liking, ask yourself, how can I do it better next time? And if you're a little bit more proactive, you're going to ask yourself 5 times at least, um, you know, how can I say it better? How can I say it better? Right? Like if you're, as if you're writing a letter to your senior executive, you're going to write it 10 times over to make sure that it's perfect, right? The grammar, the everything is
Absolutely.
perfect. So it's the same thing. Why do we need to be so reactive, right? It's funny. Sometimes I tell my kids, I say, think, 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 and still don't say it. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, don't say it.
No, but I think you're right. There has to be a balance. There has to be a balance. And I agree with you 100% on the decorum, the lihaz. Even if you want to say things, there is a way of saying it. You don't just blurt it out, or you don't just say, oh, I disagree with you completely. And, yes, for sure. And the kids are being exposed to a lot more these days with, the internet. We didn't have that when we were growing up.
No.
And that's the whole world to navigate, like a whole new world. It's sending you all these different messages. Social media has a huge role in our children's lives now, and that it's here to stay, and it's something we have to learn to deal with.
Exactly. And I think it's shaping, like, I guess when we were growing up, the personalities that was shaping us to become who we are were our parents, our grandparents, our teachers, our extended families like chachas and chachis and mamus and mamanis and khalas and khalus and puppos and puppas. Like those were the kind of people who were influencing us into shaping who we became. And not to say that, obviously there could have been improvement there too, because I feel like at 40, what I'm learning today, alhamdulillah, we're able to teach that to our kids when they're so much younger, right? But the problem is that that whole dynamic has shifted, because now it's not just those people raising your kids, it's the internet and the social media that's shaping your child. So obviously there you have to apply those filters, right?
Yeah, it's Instagram and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok and whatnot that's raising them. And you're right, the generation before us did the best with the tools they had.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did the
I mean,
best.
look at me, look at you.
Yeah, we're awesome. Yeah, no, they did the best, and we're doing our best, and I'm sure our children will be like, you could have done this better, and that's a cycle that everybody's going to be in. I'm sure their children are going to tell them the same thing.
Yeah,
that's just a cycle. And we've learned so much from the people before us, so much about family and tradition and togetherness, and being there for each other during rough times, during good times. They've taught us a lot as well.
mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate all the lessons that they've taught us. A lot about, like you said, about respect and patience. A lot about patience and, being okay. A lot of these people lived in huge joint family systems, and they all lived so happily together.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much harmony and unity, and like it's amazing when I see them, and I think about if we were asked, even our generation, to live the way they lived, I don't know if we would be able to do it.
So I come from a joint family system, and so I mean, like there's always things that happen, but the beauty of it is, and I think that's what, like in my siblings, I feel it's there, and I know it's probably out there many, that you have to be able to quickly go back. It's like, how should I explain it? And when I think about it, the only way I can explain it better is like Mercury, right?
Mm-hmm.
When a foreign object separates the Mercury, it separates for a little while, but then it comes back together. Right? Yeah. And literally that's how our family has always been. Like, I'm not saying go grow apart, but it's like, okay, somebody said something to somebody, and but it gets resolved very quickly, and everybody comes together very quickly. It's like, okay, over. It's like, okay, keh diya, sun liya, process kar liya, over and done with. Let's get back, and you're back to normal. And I think that's how life should be, right? We I think the problem now I find with I wouldn't say necessarily with the generation, but with the time, is that a lot of people tend to hold on to a lot of stuff now.
Yes.
And and what that creates is, it obviously it weighs you down. It's baggage. It's as I said in my post as well, that over analyzing, overthinking.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you just have to address it and move on.
And I also think it's because in today's time, everything is written. So you post your feelings on Instagram, you post your feelings on, you're angry with someone, you'll write something on Facebook. Now it's there to stay. So you go back and you revisit it, and it festers, and it, like, it bothers you constantly. And you
Mm-hmm.
think about it, and like you said, you overanalyze it, you look at it, the tone, what did this person mean? Before, you would have it out,
Mm-hmm.
you would, have the discussion, you would say what you felt, and then you would be like, okay, you know how we say in Urdu, kaha suna maaf, and then you would just move on, right? Like, you'd be
Yeah,
like, okay,
exactly.
let's
Exactly.
just, yeah, let's just find the middle ground. Okay, let's just agree to disagree. We're fine. Our hearts are clean, and we moved on. So yeah, that's something we have lost out, I think, on in today's time, and we're trying to bring it back by
Yeah.
telling people, giving them the tools of, just letting things go, being mindful, not letting things weigh you down. you
Mm-hmm.
know Works sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I guess that's what it is, right? Like, but we all need to evolve, even with parenting. How I did things with, let's say, Iman,
Mhm.
um, very different to how we're doing things with Sukena. And so again, parenting has evolved, and times have changed. And I think that the one thing that parenting has taught me is that it's helped me grow in so many ways, right?
Yeah.
It's made me more understanding. It's made me more patient. It's made me more um, accepting of other people's ideas, because now these kids have grown up and they have opinions, man. Like,
Of course, yes.
you
It
cannot
actually
dismiss them.
humbles you. Parenting really humbles you, right? Like, because you realize also how little control we actually have on so many things in life.
Yeah.
And yeah, for sure, I agree with you 100%. These kids, they have their own opinions, and that's okay. That's okay. It's funny because, we raise them to be these strong, independent people. And when they become that, then we're like, no, be strong and independent with everybody else, but not with me, please.
Yeah.
Like, don't bring that to me. Just be with everybody else, be like that. And it's so funny because that's what we're instilling in them, be principled, be strong, be independent, have your own opinion, don't follow, the trend, don't follow the crowd. And then obviously when they do that to us, like, I love it because sometimes my kids will tell me, and I say I love it because, like you said, you learn things about yourself that if I say something that's not very nice, or I'll pass a comment about something, they'll tell me, Mom, that's not a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
Why would you say that? Or why would you stereotype like that, Mom? That's not very nice,
And it's
And
funny because you're just having that, like, I think the one thing I must say this new generation um, has, which is very, very positive, is they're very aware of
yeah.
what is right and what is wrong, um, or the fact that what is politically correct.
Mhm.
When I'm preparing for my talks, and I actually I go back to them a lot. I ask them questions, or I'll always go back and get their advice on things.
Mhm.
And they'll be like, okay, Mom, make sure you don't use these words, or
Yeah.
make sure you use the correct verbiage. And I'm like, what? And now I actually, and so they're so mindful about those things, and it makes me feel so good. Like, it makes me feel like, oh, okay, they're aware of what's happening, of how things are evolving around them. So you can't just, what you could have said 10 years ago or 15 years ago, you can't say that now anymore,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. No, and that's so, like you said, that's so good to see in them. And they're also very, they're also very nice the way they'll point it out. Like, they'll, my kids will say to me something like, well, you wouldn't like it if so and so someone said something like this about, you, or something you believed in. And what's also lovely about them, Zara, is that they have the capacity to understand that people are different and have different opinions, lifestyles, different journeys. And it's okay for those people to have that. And it's okay for you to let them have that, and you go on your own journey, they go on their own. And just because you're okay doesn't mean you have to agree with them. You may disagree with them, but you know what? They're fine to go down that path. Like they don't feel like they need to go out and fix it. You know, like they don't feel like they need to go tell that person, oh, you need to fix the journey you're going on. No, they're like, okay, you know what? That's fine. We've told them once, or we've, you know, that's what they're choosing to do, then good for them. And I need to focus on my own stuff. And that, I think, is so good that I mean, that's probably what makes them a lot more happier and lighter than probably we were, because we were so worried about everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, you know, mashallah, it's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. And they take over us completely. Like they've taken over our conversation. See, moms, all they do is talk about their kids. So let's move on. Let's move on to 113.
Yes. 113. Yeah. So 113 is a podcast that we started earlier this year. And it's actually myself, my sister, and then my 3 cousins. And the way the conversation started was, we have a WhatsApp group, and we're always talking about just, you know, political stuff or stuff we've learned, or, you know, just sort of the conversation we're having right now, you know, parenting and just different things. It's a group we would all come on and just be like, oh, I need someone to just listen to me today, or someone to guide me. And then one day I just sort of said to one of my cousins, she lives in Sydney, I kind of jokingly said, you know, this sounds like a really good podcast idea. And it just went from there. And the main thing was that we were sort of tired of hearing the narrative out there was all about how Islam is, how Islam needs to change, how Muslim women are oppressed, how they need to change. And we just felt that it's such a big market, and there's not that many Muslim women podcasters. And it's so good to see, because now that we've entered this market, there's Mummying While Muslim, there's a couple of other ones that we've come across, and it's so nice to see it grow, and everybody brings something different to the table. And so we meet, we actually post once a week, and we talk about different topics, and a lot of it is just stuff that we have experienced, or we have learned, or mistakes we've made. We share those, and the hope is to, you know, have this out there that, you know, we have opinions and views, and we have our voice that we want people to hear. So, yes.
Yeah, I've heard to almost all of them, and I love how you all pick very current but different topics, and to hear the view of 5 different people on it, and their perspective. It's just amazing. And I think I do agree, like there is so much that we can offer. And there's, you know, like where I'm really big on podcasts. And I think for me, how my journey started was because I would listen to podcasts. I wouldn't only listen, but I would make my kids listen. And how I would do that, you have no idea. Okay, so
Sarah, I remember coming to your house when you had done that big, it was like I don't know, you had done a really nice ladies get together, and you had Oprah on with her podcast, and you had, I think, Mel Robbins on. And we were all listening to it.
So no, so basically my thing was I came across listening to to these podcasts, and I'm like, you know, and a few of them were really good. So at that time I was not working full time. And so I would have, like, you know, certain days to myself or mornings to myself when I would be doing house stuff and all the kids would be in school. So that was my me time. And I would just put a podcast on really loud, and it would be on my phone, and I'd be going from room to room, or I'd be cleaning or tidying up or cooking and be listening. And so any of the podcasts that I would think, okay, this is a really good one, I would actually force my kids to sit and listen to it.
Listen to it.
The thing is that initially it's always that that struggle, right? No. And so I'd make a nice breakfast on the weekend and be like, oh guys, and then my phone would come out and then I would put it on. And so then they start cross talking and I'm like, no, I need otherwise, and I would rewind it. I would go, I'm like, no. And so that was right at the beginning. Or I would do worse, long car rides.
Oh my.
You can't even get out of the car anymore.
You can't get out of the car.
But you know what the good thing came out of it was, like, I had to, I would say forcefully encourage the kids to listen to podcasts. But what it did was it opened up and we would then sit, listen to the podcast and then talk about it. Like we would just have a discussion about it. And I think that kind of started opening up their minds and opening and started making them think differently. And so now I wouldn't say all the time, but I one of my kids will come up to me and says, oh mom, you have to listen to this podcast, it's amazing, blah blah blah. And it makes me feel like, okay, they may not have the time to sit and read. They do read, but with schoolwork and everything, but at least, like, if they're doing something and they listen to a podcast very quickly, I think that's good, right? Like at least they're getting in some, like it's like almost like an audiobook or getting that knowledge in.
Yeah.
Right. It may be a different source, but
you're right. See, podcasts are exactly what you just said. They're different people's life perspectives, different experiences that people have had. And it's so nice. Like last week you had done the one on mental health and you had 5 different people on, and it was so nice to hear everyone's different take on it. Yeah. Because we know we tend to be we see things with just our own lens, right? So we tend to focus on a problem or see something with just that one lens, and we're like, oh, but this is the solution. But when you listen to all these things, and you, like last week when I saw your panel, everyone was talking about the same thing, but they had a whole different look at it, a whole different lens that they came at. And it really shifts your perspective because you start thinking, oh, that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Or now I understand why they're saying this.
Yeah. So, and I think what it does is, like I feel like I'm a people's person. So I would, pick up the phone and I try to connect with my friends or, my family members and have conversations with them. And it would be like both ways would be a very meaningful, deep conversation. Not every single time, but a lot of times. So I just felt like, that there are other people who can listen to these conversations, right? And when you're having a flow in a conversation, things just come to you naturally and you say things. And then I would sit back and think, oh, I wish I could have recorded the conversation. Like we spoke about so many different things. And so now I feel like with my podcast, if even with one podcast that I post, if even one person can benefit from it,
100%.
And that could impact their life, or they can in a better way, I think that I've achieved my purpose, right? Or my goal. So it's not about, obviously at the end of the day, it becomes about numbers, because the more you share and the more you write and the more people benefit, the more satisfaction you would get. For me, that's what numbers are. But at the end of the day, it's just getting how you see life as, or what your perspective is out there, with hopes if even one person can benefit from it. So
of course, right? If you answered one person who wanted to learn more about Islam, or even, for example, with your podcast, if they just got on and they saw all these amazing, strong Muslim women who are doing so many things, right? Like, it's so nice to see, from health and fitness to wellness to mental health to just connecting to the spiritual side, to there's so much out there and there's so much that they're doing, and it's so nice to see that. It really is. It's so nice to see that. And that's, for me, that I agree with you 100%. Even if one person benefits, or it helps one person, or it changes one person's perspective, I'd say that's a win right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why when I started off, my focus was to start from within. So, within close proximity, or within our community, or within, and of course, like, I'm not limiting myself, because there are so many other people who may be out of our community, or you know, but they can also teach us so much. So kind of slowly expanding, you know, and kind of talking to different people. But there's so many people within us as well that we need to bring to the surface and extract their wisdom, right?
I was so happy when you started, because you are like me. We're both very extroverted, we're people's person, and it's so nice because you, like you said, you know, we've had lots of deep conversations. You and I, like, you know, we've spoken about so many things, from heavy stuff to light stuff to, you know, points in our life where we've, you know, we feel like we're drowning and we needed someone to uplift us. Like, you know, we've been through a lot, and it's so nice to be able to have that. So I was so happy when you started, because I really felt you have so much to bring to the table, and it's so nice to see the way you're going about it and you're bringing it. And I'll go back and I'll honestly say this again, and please read Zara's write up from today. I mean, I even told, I was like, I was so happy to have read that, because I really felt that was a very raw, and it was so you know, I really felt you put your heart in that write up today.
See, the thing with my writing, I think that was one thing that I really wanted to do, and thankfully for COVID, I actually got down to do it because it gave me time to do it, and that might be my silver lining. Writing for me is I wait, like I don't think I'm an impulsive writer. I think I take my time, because I want to make sure what I'm saying or what I'm feeling and what I'm thinking gets conveyed in the right manner. And so sometimes I'll just, you know, scribble something, but for the most part, it's a little bit intuitive for me. I have to wait to know what I want to write about and how I'm feeling about it and when I want to share it. So even this post that I posted today, which I kind of sat in it for a few weeks, and then finally, like, and then I posted it late last night. So yeah, you know, it's everybody's journey, and I think that what you all 5 women are doing is also quite remarkable in different areas of the world, and different countries, different continents, I would even say.
Different time zones, man.
Different time zones, and making that time and making that effort to come together, to help. It's not easy doing all that, but you know, but if this is what your passion is and this is what you believe in, I think it's very, very important that at some point in our life we need to identify that. And it may not be when you want it to be. And I think for me, that was one of the struggles, right? Like I used to think, I knew I had something bigger to achieve, but I was trying to grasp onto it at a time in my life when I don't think it was the right time, and just letting it go eventually and waiting for it to come back, which was now, you know, was what was meant for me. So, but never, like, I feel like it's never too late, and it's never, your passion is not important, right? You need to find that. And for some people, like, everybody's passion is different. And I think just constantly reflecting on what it is for you is very important. So to have that purpose outlined, I think that is important.
And I think you said the key word, that it all happens at the right time. It honestly does. Like, you can think about stuff, but everything just falls into place like a puzzle, you know, right time, and it flows really well after that.
Yeah.
And so for us too, I think COVID was the push that we had kind of needed. You know, we all decided to do this, and we're very passionate about it, and we really, you know, the other part is that we really enjoy it. There's a lot of planning that goes into it. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion. Oh my God, so much discussion, and a lot of, because it's 5 people, obviously, so there's, you know, different views, and so much discussion on what should we talk about. Should we, you know, approach this? How do we approach this? But in the end, it's so worth it. It's so worth it, right? And but thank you. I know you've been supporting us from day one, and we really, really do appreciate it.
And likewise, like, I love the love. And I absolutely love the love from you and from everybody else, and I think that's the encouragement that you're looking for, right? And that's what keeps you going. So because it makes me happy. I'm up until 2 o'clock. I was up until 2 o'clock last night trying to finish writing the post and posting it, or stealing time away here and there to kind of get it done. I always, there are two things that I feel very deeply about, and that kind of gives me a lot of direction. Is one is man proposes and God disposes,
Yes.
and the other thing that is coming to me right now is, which I always tell my kids also, is there's my time, and then there's divine time.
Divine time.
And
Yes.
I always used to want to get things done on my time. And I learned that when I leave it up to Allah and I do it on Allah's time, um, I don't have any grief. I don't have any anxiety about it, because I know that He knows, right? So yeah, so that's what it is. But I think I would love to um, tackle a topic with 113 if ever given an
Yes.
opportunity.
Yes, sure, for sure. For sure. We should connect, and
Yes.
we should do that soon, inshallah. For sure. We'll connect and we'll do that.
And I will definitely share with you my stack of parenting books. Um,
Please do.
and I'm looking forward for your recommendations after me reading 40 Rules of Love, what I could read as a nonfiction that would be somewhere along those lines, because I think I'm into a bit of spirituality. So I think I would like to read something about that. Any other thoughts that you want to leave us with today?
No, just, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this, and, good luck for everything, for your writing, for your podcasts, and for your reading as well. I will send you a list, and that's pretty much it. Yes.
So thank you so much, Zainab, not just for your time today, but your time always. You have been quite a pillar in my life as a friend, and you've been there for me to help me and guide me and tell me how things the way they are, and I love that about you. And I wish you nothing but the best with your 113 and keep doing this amazing work that you do with books. Even though if I may not pick up a book and read it, it's such a good reminder. And I know that eventually, inshallah, when I have more time on my hands, I have a lot of your posts saved, and I know I want to read this or I want to read that. But thank you so much. You bring a lot to the table, or
Thank
or
you.
you bring a lot to anybody's life that you're in. So thank you.
Thank you, Zara.
Thank you. Inshallah, we'll do this again.
Inshallah, for sure.
All right, my dear. Take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.